The start of this chapter has been quite productive so far. So, like I wanted to do in my last log, I have added a pause menu for the mind, and it works great, as you can see. And then I've also started working on the dialogue tree. Oof. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention the pause. I was having it, the buttons weren't clicking, and it was because I forgot this event system thing, which is pretty important, I guess. But anyways, yeah, so I've decided I wanted to go with a dialogue tree where the player can sometimes select what they want to say, and then based on that, the mind will say something different. And so this is the mind text, and then in here, I have two different possible scenarios. So one is when there are options, and so the light blue one is going to be the option that you pick. And then when there are no options, it'll just look like this. And then I've also worked on the JSON a little bit, but the script to actually like make the JSON file work with Unity, oh my god. It's just gonna seem like a complete headache to do, but I'll learn a lot from it. So yeah, that's all for today. So I have made dialogue fully functional. It took a little while, and I don't really understand how it works, but that's for tomorrow. And it also looks kind of ugly, but that's for, again, tomorrow, or whatever date. It'll probably not be tomorrow. So here I have my choices, and I just move on by clicking F. Everything in this game moves on by clicking F. And then it responds, and then I can either use the arrow keys to switch between them, or click them, and then I click F to move on. So I'll just say, who are you? And then it gives this dialogue tree. Or I can go here. Then I'll just have to escape. And yeah, it works. I think the brown background looks kind of bad. So maybe that's something I work on. I think maybe I just have it out in the darkness. Like, I don't think I need to do anything too complicated. Like, I think this white text, in contrast to this black mind or whatever this zone is, I mean, it looks simple, but I think it looks pretty well and fits, the thematic of the game. But yeah, the dialogue works, and well, that's all that matters, right? So I've added the dialogue for when you are about to transcend to level 1. So once you get here, you'll get the dialogue, and I made them the same for both the easy and hard level. I think going forward, I will just do that because I don't really see a need to change the dialogue based on the difficulty. And right now, yeah, I mean, I think only one dialogue needs to be per level. Maybe I'll do two, maybe one when they're... Now that I'm planning the level building with dialogues in mind, because before I wasn't, I may leave room for a dialogue mid-level. But for example, on this level, I mean, there's not really a point where I can add dialogue that wouldn't disrupt, the focus of the level, I would say. Like, there's mines here, there's spikes here, there's jumps, I don't want to mess with the player in that way. So I'll just show the dialogue, and I also removed the brown background because I thought it looked bad, but right now it still looks a bit goofy. And I've purposely removed punctuation at the end, except question marks, because I think it looks a bit better. So I've already shown this, but now I'm just gonna grab the player. Oh, did I just kill the player? Hopefully not. Okay. And then there's this, so I'll just do one step. And then okay, so I mean, I think it looks better than it did before, but I mean, it still doesn't look very good, but it's fine. All right, so I decided that I would make the story when you go into the mind, whatever, when you transcend. I like the idea that originally I liked the idea that, oh, you know, you just stumble upon an area and then you go into the mine, but then I really thought about it, and it's super confusing, and it doesn't make much sense at all, even though it is cooler to code. But regardless, now when you transcend, that's when you go into the mine, and it makes much more sense, right? And then what I also did today is I made the rendering more robust. So I'm going back to the tutorial because I'm going to be starting my work on the level 2. And there were just some improvements that he did. He tried to show you could layer objects using the sorting layer. But I tried to do it, and it would basically make the object not render when I transition from the mind, when I disable and re-enable the game objects. It was super confusing. I spent like half an hour trying to fix and go back and forth and see what's the problem. I really couldn't figure it out, so at the end of the day, I just made the rendering order based on just numbers instead of, you know, a layer. I mean, it's worse, but it's not that big of a deal, and it's better than things not rendering at all. And by the way, render order is just whichever has the higher rendering order when an object is on top of another, it goes on top of it, whereas this goes below it, if you can kind of see. Okay. And then the last thing I did was just made the transcending levels a little bit more intuitive. So now what I can do actually is I can set the initial level, and this is really good for testing, at 2, let's just say. And now when I test, you know, to see the changes I've made, I start at level 2. And that's really good. So yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, this one's probably going to be a short log. I've been trying to implement animated writing, so kind of each character gets written in time increments. But I've just been debugging for like an hour, and I have no idea why it doesn't work. Basically, I start this, where do I start it? I start the thing here. I mean, if you don't know code, you won't understand this, okay? But if you do, but basically, I start it, and I mean, I've removed, like, normally I have the writing here. I've removed basically everything about this to determine what's the problem. And for some reason, it only writes starting. It waits for 1 second, and it never finishes. And I have no idea why. I don't know what's stopping it. This display dialog is not repeating. I've logged this before, so yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I've been like super struggling. Whatever, maybe tomorrow I'll figure it out, but yeah, I mean, I basically did nothing this whole day but try to debug this, and I still haven't found the problem. Alright, so as you can see, I changed the main menu. The old one just didn't fit with the theme of the game at all. I mean, it was okay. It was like a staircase to kind of like show that you're ascending, but just didn't fit the vibe. Okay. So I've changed the UI as well. I've made it, you know, silver, gray, black, white, because that's kind of the mind, right? As you can see here, like the quality is a little bit so I'll have to fix that somehow. Anyways, I also revamped the pauses for both. And I learned that, you know, like making your UI like prefabbed or like if the UI is like separate and you want to change something, you have to go into every single scene, every single part of the UI and then change it. So it took like a little while, and especially if you create like a large game, like that's going to be a huge pain. So early on, just making them organized so that you can change them all at once is really important, and something I would have done earlier. Now, the dialogue, or the mind, the scene is now separate. So before I was additive loading the scene because I needed to keep my position in the actual game. If you watch my previous vlogs, you'll know. But since I changed it to the dialogue only happens when you transcend, it doesn't need to have that anymore because I can just save that as the level. So yeah. Anyways, I've added animated writing, and the reason why I changed it to separate, one of the big reasons, is because it wasn't working. The animated writing, you see how that's animated? Now it's really fast. I might slow it down, but when it's slowed down, it like looks pretty bad. But I couldn't do this. Like I spent like hours, like last vlog, just trying to, figure out why it wasn't working. It was because it was additive loading. I don't know why. It seems like a bug to me, but yeah. Now it's the separate scene. And it honestly just makes it easier to code. Like additive scenes are not good primarily. You have to worry about 2 cameras. You have to worry about, multiple audio listeners. Like it's just a pain. And now I don't have to deal with that. So that's nice. So yeah, I mean, the game's coming really good. The UI looks so much better now. And I think soon I can start working on the next level. I think my next video will be focused on the next level. And so that's great. All right, this is the final log. I mean, overall, I think I did a lot of good progress. I like the new main menu. Maybe the fog could be moving, but that's for a later date. Now today, I did the final important thing I wanted to do, which was fixing the jumping. So if you watched my previous logs, the jumping, you could jump from the sides of objects. And if I just get past this, I can show. You used to be able to basically get on top of here from being able to jump on the side, right over here where my cursor is. And I basically had to change the raycast, basically how the game checks whether you're allowed to jump or not. Basically, what is the ground? And so now I fixed it. But there is one slight compromise, which is that at the very edge, you see how I can jump right now? At the very edge, you can't jump. Right now I'm clicking space, I can't jump. And I think this is fine. Basically, why this doesn't work is because from the bottom of my feet, it used to be the collider was kind of like a rectangle like this, but now it's just a straight line down from my feet. Because before, the rectangle, if I was in midair on the side of this, the rectangle would intercept with here, and it would allow me to jump, and then I jump from the air onto this, which obviously isn't good. There are like other ways I could maybe look to change this, but for now, I think this is a fine compromise. Again, only when you're at the very, very edge, and I think most players will not even notice, and I don't think it's a big deal. You can jump from right here. I think that's good enough. And I've play tested the rest of the levels, and it's all fine to me. And especially because this game is going to be a lot about, using your brain more than, mechanics of, how you move. But I mean, yeah. It was really important. Like before, from here, I could jump in midair right as I'm on the side of this, and now I can't. And I think that's a worthy trade-off, that I can't jump right at this pixel, but I can still jump almost right at the edge anyways. So yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. It wasn't really my best. Okay, as you can see there, you can jump like that, but you would have already been on the top of this. So I think that's fine. It's okay to me that you can do that. I think. Like, this is the best it's gonna get. I can't make it any better than that, okay? So, I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with the progress I did this chapter, but in the actual video itself, I think it was kind of low quality. But yeah, it's okay. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. See you in the next.